Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom.
Hey, it's our sports unit, and we're going to be talking about a particular sport I was unfamiliar with until today. Tom said that he had heard of it before, or at least seen it played. It's called pickleball. What did you remember seeing when you saw it, Tom?
Well, I was in Chicago with my family, and we were walking along the shore there, and there were some tennis courts there, but people were playing some sport that was not tennis and not badminton, and I didn't know what it is, and I later found out that they were playing pickleball, and that's gaining popularity all over the world, mainly because it's not as fast and intense as tennis or badminton. So basically, anybody can play it, and you can learn it like within 20 minutes. You're good to go.
And you can take your grandpa or your grandma out to a court and play. When I was reading about it online, it sounded like they used a wiffle ball. They had little holes in the ball, if you've ever seen a wiffle ball. But it's kind of cute. And if more people can play it, I think that's great because exercise is important for all of us, even when you get to be older. So we're going to read through today's lesson, and then we'll be back to talk about pickleball.
Pickleball has a bizarre name, but this fast-growing and highly accessible racket sport is easy to play. It's a fantastic form of exercise for participants of all ages, and it might even become an Olympic sport one day. The game was devised by 3 dads on vacation near Seattle, U.S. Their children were bored, so the fathers improvised a game to entertain them by using table tennis paddles, a badminton court, and a perforated plastic ball. As one family's dog Pickles kept chasing the ball, the kids called the sport Pickles Ball, a name that evolved into pickleball. From these modest beginnings, pickleball has become one of the fastest-growing sports in the U.S. and Canada, with around 4.8 million people now playing regularly. This is an increase of almost 40% in 2 years. It's played on a small court, such as a badminton court, with a lower net, or a tennis court with additional boundary lines. The small court means that players don't exhaust themselves by running around too much. Because of this, it's good exercise not only for kids, but also for the elderly, as well as anyone with physical limitations such as an injury or disability. This aspect of pickleball makes it a superb social activity. Furthermore, the rules are simple and no special clothing is needed. These simple requirements mean it's easy for a community to set up pickleball courts. Pickleball is widespread outside North America as well. The International Federation of Pickleball lists players and clubs in 70 different countries. If this number grows to 75, then the sport will have met one of the necessary conditions to become an Olympic event. While there are other conditions to be fulfilled, there's a distinct possibility that pickleball players may one day appear at the world's premier athletic competition.
So let's talk about pickleball. It's a different kind of sport. I've never seen it myself, but Tom has witnessed it with his own eyes.
Just one time.
So we know it exists. And I did go online to see what it looked like. I wanted to see, how big the court was. And they kind of described it as a mishmash or a combination of different types of sports. Like it's a little bit like paddleball, a little bit like tennis, a little bit like badminton. And the ball they use was kind of like the one we use in wiffle ball because it has holes in it. But the one thing that is really great about it is that everyone can enjoy it. So our title kind of talks about this aspect of pickleball. It says, it's a pleasant pastime for one and all. For one and all just means for everyone. You'll often hear ads or hear somebody like who's trying to sell something. Come, one and all are welcome. It's kind of an old-fashioned saying, but we still hear it all the time. It's great for one and all. If you're talking about a pastime, it's something that you do when you have free time and you want to just relax and enjoy yourself. We like to say in America that baseball is America's favorite pastime. I actually think more people these days like football, but who knows? So it's a pleasant pastime for one and all. Everyone can enjoy it.
Indeed. So let's talk about it by looking at the first paragraph here. It says, pickleball has a bizarre name, but this fast-growing and highly accessible racket sport is easy to play. Indeed, pickleball is a strange, unusual, bizarre name. Pickles usually are cucumbers that have been soaked in brine for a while, and they're kind of sour tasting, and we put them on our hamburgers, sometimes on our hot dogs, or sometimes by themselves. We can have them with lunch. My mother used to make us sandwiches with pickles. That was always tasty. But yeah, why would you name a sport after such a eating thing, such a piece of food?
Yeah.
Pickleball. Are you hitting a pickle around or something? That's pretty weird.
I know.
But still, it's a fast-growing sport, and we're also describing it as being accessible. It's also a racket sport. That refers to any sport that is played with a racket, such as tennis or badminton. And if it's accessible, that means anybody can play it. Tennis is kind of difficult because it is intense, and people hit the ball hard, and it's kind of difficult to hit. So if you're really, really young or really, really old, it's probably not going to be very convenient for you to play tennis. Badminton, of course, is extremely fast. Boy, they hit that birdie really, really fast, so you got to be really quick. You got to have fast reflexes. But this particular sport can be played by anybody, so we're saying it's accessible. And again, it's a racket sport.
Another racket sport would be table tennis, or what we call ping pong in the United States. You play with a paddle. It's a small racket. But yeah, it's fun. So it's a fantastic form of exercise for participants of all ages. That's why a writer said it was a pleasant pastime for one and all. If you're a participant, you are participating in something. You're getting involved. You're not just an onlooker or a spectator. Those are people in the stands who go to watch sporting events, a spectator, a fan. But if you're a participant, you're in there playing. You're actually getting involved. So it might even one day become an Olympic sport. We don't know. Maybe.
Possibly, and yeah, I like the fact that this is accessible because I've tried to play tennis many times, but it's very hard and you need lots and lots of practice, and you can get frustrated really easily with tennis. I think this kind of sport might be more fun for people who don't have a lot of expectations. You'll be able to play it rather quickly, and again, if you are a participant, that means you partake in something. So yes, anybody can play this sport, and again, it may even be an Olympic sport one day, who knows? Now, the game was devised, or it was come up with, or it was invented by three fathers, on vacation near Seattle in the United States. Seattle, of course, is famous for Boeing, but their children were bored, so the fathers improvised a game to entertain them by using table tennis paddles, a badminton court, and a perforated plastic ball. So, yeah, if you've ever been a parent and you have children, they get bored pretty fast, and you need to figure out a way to keep them occupied. Of course, nowadays, parents take the lazy route, and here, just take the iPad and play video games and leave me alone for an hour. That's not good. People have to be physical, you know, so these fathers thought up this game. I think it was way back in the 60s, actually.
65, yeah.
Yeah, and they improvised this game. They came up with this game. Maybe they did not have a tennis court or a badminton court or whatever. We need to think of something fast so these kids will stop nagging us to take them to an amusement park or something like that. So yeah, they devised this game, they improvised a game, and they used table tennis paddles. Those are the things you use to play ping pong or table tennis. I've heard them referred to as bats by British people before, but in the US we call them paddles. And then they played it on a badminton court, and they had a plastic ball that was perforated. If something's perforated, it's full of holes.
Yeah.
So that slows it down, just like practice golf balls. I remember when we practiced golf when I was a kid. If you want to practice hitting golf balls, of course, they're going to fly like 100 yards away from you or something. Then you got to go chase them down. But one way to avoid chasing those balls down is to use a perforated practice golf ball. It will go only maybe 10 or 20 feet, so you can go out there and get it pretty fast, but you still get to practice your swing.
Yeah. I have to say, though, these dads may not have wanted to play with their kids, but they didn't have cell phones or smartphones. And so back then, actually, dads would play with kids a lot more. So they came up with this fun game. So we've got one family's dog whose name was Pickles. Well, Pickles kept chasing the ball. The kids called the sport Pickles ball, like the ball belonged to Pickle, a name that evolved or changed gradually over time into pickleball. As one family's dog just means because this is the reason, because one family's dog Pickles kept chasing the ball, that's why we have the name of the sport today, pickleball. They've dropped the S. So that's where the name comes from, if you were wondering. I know Tom and I thought it was kind of strange that it was named after a type of food. But now we know it was actually a dog's name, which is a cute name for a dog, I must say, Pickle.
Well, I should say that's disputed because they don't really know exactly where this name came from. That's a theory that it was named after the dog. Some people say that the dog was actually born after the sport was invented, but you'll have to make your own decision on that. But it's still kind of cute that the dog Pickles was chasing after the ball every time they hit it. Hey, Dad, let's call it pickleball because Pickles is chasing the ball. Okay, son, that's a good idea. So that's one reason or one theory why this game is called pickleball, but it's still kind of a cute name. And because it's the word pickle, it makes it pretty easy to remember. Okay, that brings us to the midway point in our lesson for today. Let's take a break now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
听众朋友大家好，我是安娜。我们今天要跟大家介绍一种新的运动。其实也不是新的运动，听说这个 pickleball 匹克球，它其实已经在全世界已经玩了好几十年了，不过在台湾好像没有那么 popular， 我们好像比较常打的是羽球啦、网球啦，或者是桌球。好，那同样在介绍这个新运动的同时啊，我们把文章设计成为所谓的文艺选择。那我们也同样先看一下选项当中可能比较需要特别照顾的一些单字，比如说 G 选项的这个 device。Device 其实就是 design， 就是设计的意思啦。那么它在这里加了一个 D 呢，有可能是过去式啦，或者是过去分词。好，接下来请看 I 选项的 increase。如果我念 increase， 它是动词的增加哦。如果我说 increase， 那它就变成名词了。好，再来 J 选项的 evolve。evolve 是一个展开、进化的动作。在这里加了一个 D， 也有可能是过去式啦，或者是过去分词。好，那么在快速看了一下选项之后呢，我们来看一下这个 pickleball。当然 pickleball 呢，这是一个什么样的球啊？我们有好几个形容词，在第一段的第一句就看到好几个形容词。第一个，它的名字非常的 bizarre， 很奇怪。第二个形容词 fast growing，它快速的发展。第三个形容词 highly accessible， 相当容易理解的，相当好上手的，应该是这么说。easy to play， 而且很容易呢，大家都可以玩，拍子拿了就可以打。好，那它到底是一个什么样的东西呢？它其实就是结合羽球啊、桌球啊、这个网球这样子的一个运动。到底是由谁发明的啊？我们在第二段第一句这边看到。其实从文艺上面，我们就可以按照它的 flow 来。在当时的美国的西雅图呢，在度假的有3个父亲 ，three dads， 他们所发明的。首先，我们在这边看到是第一题，第一题在这里呢，应该看到的是由谁来设计，由谁来发明，所以第一题就选 G devised。当时是发生什么事呢？原来啊，那时候因为度假，然后因为小孩很无聊，所以3个爸爸就很即兴的用手边有的桌球拍啊、羽毛球场啊，还有一个塑胶球，上面还有洞呢， 就这样子发明了。那么当时因为呢，有一个家庭啊，还有一只狗叫做 Pickles， 一直追着球跑，所以后来就演变成为所谓的 pickleball。同样在第二段，我们要看一下第三句哦。第三句的第一个字的 as， 它是一个介系词，表示身份的意思。身为其中一个家庭的宠物狗。那么最后面在破折号的地方，我们看到一个限定用法的关系子句。破折号之后，我们看到 Pickles ball， 后来演变成为所谓的 pickleball。好，先行词是 a name， 一个名字。什么样的名字呢？就是演化、进化、发展成为 pickleball 的这个名字。所以 that 到句尾是一个限定用法的关系子句。当然，我们在第三题后面这里有一个 into 成为什么什么是答案的线索 That evolved into pickleball.
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about pickleball, and we're describing it as a pleasant pastime for one and all. It's got a weird name, but it's been growing in popularity over the years, and it's a fantastic or great way for people of all ages to exercise. Who knows, someday it may be an Olympic sport one day. We don't know. We'll see. But the game was devised or thought up by or invented, you could say, by three dads on vacation near Seattle, which is in the U.S. So their children were kind of bored, and the dads got together and thought, let's just come up with a game. This is a thing that dads do very well, I must say. And they wanted to entertain their kids, and they got together and had some paddles, table tennis paddles. They had access to a badminton court, and their plastic ball had holes in it, so we're calling it a perforated plastic ball. Kind of slows the speed down if you put holes into the ball, so it's better for younger kids or older people too. And according to one theory, one family's dog that was playing, his name was Pickles, and he kept chasing the ball. So the kids decided to call the sport Pickles Ball, and then it gradually changed into what it is now, pickleball.
Okay, as I said, that's a theory, but from these modest beginnings, or from this simple origin, pickleball has become one of the fastest growing sports in the U.S. and Canada, with around 4.8 million people now playing regularly. And yes, indeed, I did see somebody playing it in Chicago,
wow.
So that's some proof, I guess, that it's being played. I think I like the fact that, if you miss the ball or something, you don't have to go chase it like 50 yards away from where it was hit or something.
It just drops.
It's right there because it's full of holes and it won't go very far.
Yeah.
So that's very nice. It's a nice pastime. And again, it's growing in popularity, not just in the U.S. and Canada, but all around the world. This is an increase of almost 40% in 2 years. So that's a lot of people catching on to this sport. It's played on a small court, such as a badminton court with a lower net or a tennis court with additional boundary lines. I think you can try to play it on a tennis court. It will probably work, but officially the sizes are slightly different than a tennis court or a badminton court.
Yeah, I think a tennis court is wider. I saw a picture of this court and I thought, you don't have to run around so far. If you're playing tennis, you really have to dash, and it's not a small distance. So this would be easier, again, for older people or for younger kids with really short legs. They can't go quite as fast as adults. Well, the small court means that players don't exhaust themselves by running around too much. If you're exhausting yourself doing something, you're working so hard, and you're huffing and puffing, and you just tire yourself out faster. So the players that play in the smaller court don't exhaust themselves by running around too much, which is great. Also, if you're older, there's a danger you might twist a knee or twist your ankle or fall and break a bone. So, the less running they have to do, the better, I would say. So because of this, it's a good exercise not only for kids but also for the elderly, as well as anyone with physical limitations. Those limitations might be an injury. Maybe someone's been injured and maybe they don't ever get to fully recover their movement or their ability to move like they had before. Or maybe they were born with a disability and they don't walk as well or run as well as some people. Physical just means related to your body only. It's not related to your emotions. It's not related to your mental state. It only has to do with your physical body.
I suppose you could even play this sport in wheelchairs. You never know. And this aspect of pickleball makes it a superb social activity. This is an aspect of pickleball, a certain point of view, this reality or this special feature of this sport makes it more social, which means, again, people are standing closer together. You don't have to run all over the place. You can actually socialize, you can laugh, you can have a good time. You don't have to take it seriously. And indeed, it's quite a social activity. And it sounds like a good way to be able to get away from those darn phones.
Oh, yeah. Well, furthermore, the rules are simple, so you don't have to know and memorize a lot of rules and be confused. And here's even something that's better. No special clothing is needed. Some of the sports that we participate in, you need special types of clothing or equipment to even be able to play. Well, here you don't need special clothing. These simple requirements mean it's easy for a community to set up pickleball courts. That's good news. Now, if you're talking about a community, we're probably talking about a particular neighborhood, or maybe it could be a particular group of people who have a similar interest. Maybe you have a community of artists that you like to hang out with. That's a community. And if you set something up, you just organize it and get it going so that something can actually be used to maybe invite people to participate in. Maybe you have a competition, or maybe you just ask your favorite people in the world to meet you at a court and play.
Yeah, if it's popular in a certain town, they can easily build those pickleball courts. Kind of related to this, I remember in my hometown we had 2 tennis courts, and if you wanted to go play tennis, you had to hope nobody was there. If just 4 people were there, then you had to wait your turn, maybe another half hour or something like that. But pickleball courts will take up less space, so it's possible to set up more of them and more people can play.
That's good.
And pickleball is also widespread outside North America as well. It just means also there. And so it's spreading beyond North America, Canada, and the U.S. And the International Federation of Pickleball lists players and clubs in 70 different countries. And if this number grows to 75, then the sport will have met one of the necessary conditions to become an Olympic event. Imagine that. Okay, so again, I guess one of the conditions for a sport to be played in the Olympics is that it is played in 75 countries or more. So if pickleball is played in 75 countries or more, it may get included in the Olympics in the future, but there are other conditions as well.
And here our article says, while there are other conditions to be fulfilled, there's a distinct possibility that pickleball players may one day appear at the world's premier athletic competition, and we're referring there to the Olympic Games. Now, if you have conditions that need to be fulfilled, it just means you have some requirements that you're obligated to satisfy or to take care of. So if you want to graduate from college, for example, you'll have some classes and credits that need to be fulfilled. You need to make sure that you've taken everything that you need. So there are some requirements, there are conditions that have to be met. You could say instead of fulfilled, the conditions have to be met. Here, there's a distinct possibility that one day pickleball may be an Olympic event. We don't know. We've got distinct, which usually means something that's quite unique, very clear in its form. But if you put distinct and possibility together, you guys, it means there's a definite possibility So you've got a really good chance that this will happen, a definite or real possibility that someday it might be seen at the Olympic Games. We're describing the Olympics as being the world's premier athletic competition.
Right, it's the top one. That's the one that every team wants to get into. The Olympics, World Cup is the premier soccer competition, for example. And you probably already know this, but pickleball has already made its way into Taiwan. They even have their own pickleball association here. So maybe you've seen people play this, and maybe you'd like to participate as well. And again, if this sport becomes an Olympic sport, Taiwan's athletes, of course, are more than qualified to qualify for the Olympics if this sport again becomes an Olympic sport in the premier athletic competition. Of course, premier just means the top, especially if you're talking about sports. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation. Let's turn things over now to our Chinese teacher.
那当然这个不起眼的这个起源呢，居然让匹克球啊成为美国跟加拿大发展最快的运动项目之一。到底有多少人现在正在打呢？差不多有480万人在打哦。我们在第3段第一句的地方看到逗点之后有一个 with 介系词， with 后面这系词呢就有附带状况的意思，附带着差不多有 4.8 million， 就是480万人。那要特别注意一下，因为 with 是介系词的关系，所以现在规律的在打球的打 play 这个动作就不能用动词咯，要用 playing。 这些人 now playing regularly。 那当然运动的人数在2年之内就增加了将近 40%。 那比赛到底怎么玩呢？其实就是用羽毛球场就好了。那这个羽毛球场呢，中间架的这个网子稍微又比这个网球场呢，这个网子还要再低一些，这个比这个badminton court 这些的网子都还要再低一些，所以其实还蛮好打过网的。同样在第3段的第3句，我们也看到 with a lower net， 附带着有比较低的网，最后面with additional boundary lines， 附带着有一些额外的这个边界的网球场。所以球场比较小，就不会一直跑啦，也不会耗尽体力啦，所以很适合小孩啊，适合老年人，甚至适合身体有一些限制或者是受过伤的人。同样在第3段的第5句这个地方，我们先把 not only but also 抓出来。我们在这个月的文章当中啊，出现蛮多次不止 A 而且 B 的对等连接词片语，它会用来连接词性相同的字或者是词哦。例如在这里就是连接 for kids for the elderly。 可是文意当中还有特别强调还有一些人以及那些身体有限制的人，所以逗点之后的 as well as 我们也可以把它抓出来。你可以说它是介系词片语，也可以说它是连接词片语，但它在语义上啊也有和什么什么连同什么什么的意思。那所以呢，这是一个很好上手的一个运动。那当然在北美之外呢，就慢慢的也普及起来咯，甚至现在全球啊有差不多70个不同国家都有球员跟俱乐部。如果70这个数字变成75的时候，就可以申请变成奥运的项目诶。但是在文意上的number 它是一个单数哦，所以 this number 它是被视为单数，这个数字 grows to 75。 当然如果要成为奥运的话，还有其他的条件需要达成，但是很有可能匹克球选手有朝一日就会出现在奥运的体育赛事当中哦。或许大家有空也可以去玩玩看匹克球 pickleball。 以上是我们今天内容，我是安娜，我们下次见。
Thanks for joining us, guys. We hope you learned a lot about pickleball. Keep your eyes peeled to see if you can see any pickleball courts out there or games you can join. It sounds like a fun sport. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.